you don't talk to them.
That's when it gets scary.
That's when it gets
because then they think maybe you're scared too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And and it's kind of like my best friends have been were clients of mine for 35 years, and I'd call them up, and I got them trained well. They would say, "Yeah, I know why you're calling. It's time to buy more." I'd say, well, yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm calling. But on the other hand, let's talk about your goals. We're getting closer to retirement, or we're getting closer to sending those kids to school. Maybe we ought to get a little bit more conservative. So, I mean, that's the value of working with Ryan Moore. So, great commercial for Ryan Moore.
Oh, yeah. That was not a paid endorsement.
No, it wasn't a paid endorsement, and don't let the bow tie fool you. He's a pretty bright guy.
What if his ears are ringing?
Right. Okay.
All right. I think he usually turns in to see if we played his report. So maybe the cell phone will go off here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
All right. I got us live on YouTube finally. We're having some technical difficulties this morning. But if you're joining us there, it's Scott and Mr. Mike Bentz. Thank you very much.
Good morning again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So... this is just kind of like your first time out, other than going to a store.
Yeah, it is actually. I mean, I did go to Deer Park on Saturday to the greenhouse down there and got some plants I couldn't get at SETI's.
Okay.
But there again, it's a big wide open area and wore masks and all that good thing, because I'm one of those people in the high risk categories. I mean, over 65, and I have diabetes, and so really sensitive to that. But yeah, this is actually my first time out, other than I've been to Ace Hardware a couple of times to fix some things at the house, Colville a couple of times for groceries. That's it.
Have you had a situation where you've been out and somebody next to you coughs?
I had somebody sneeze, which is, in my opinion, worse.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely. That's like you just aerosolized everything in your body.
That's right. Yeah. But I'm really good about wearing a mask when I'm in public. I mean, I don't like it, frankly, but as soon as I get out in the open air, I mean, I take it off.
Yeah.
And then I hand sanitizer. I've got Lunatizer from Two Loons.
All right.
And then literally every time I get home, I wash my hands. I mean, it's just when I get home from here, the first thing I'll do is I'll lunatize my hands when I get in my truck, and that's because I'm going to run over and get some cinnamon rolls. That was the request from the Power at Home.
All right.
And then when I get home, I'll wash my hands with soap and water. And
all right.
Other than that, we're pretty sequestered. I mean, we're tired and we don't have to really go out. I tell you, something that was really pretty cool happened in the last couple of weeks is Loretta's mom had her 90th birthday. And, since we had to cancel her birthday party, we put a big ad in the paper, and that was really well received. And then the night before her birthday, Loretta started calling people and says, what I'd like to do is let's all meet in the parking lot at Quill Hollow and sing happy birthday to her.
Aww.
And because, she's sequestered, she can't get out. She's in lockdown. And she can't even have her window open.
Really?
When people are out there, yeah. And so... Well, Loretta, we showed up, and I don't know, there were probably 20, maybe 25 people showed up just from the word got around town. And at 11 o'clock on August 12th, and the rain, it's kind of like the clouds parted and the rain stopped, and the facility operator allowed her to open her window, and everybody sang her happy birthday.
All right.
It's actually pretty cool.
You said October, though.
Oh, I'm sorry, August. Okay. Or not even August, May 12th.
Okay, all
May
right.
12th.
I mean, all kinds of confused.
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't even know what day it is. I was thinking the other day I had to put gas in my truck. I hadn't put any gas in my truck since March 6th.
Wow.
I mean, that tells you how much you've been standing at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, because I get my Social Security deposit actually on Wednesdays, the 20th is when I got it. And I'm thinking, boy, the bank account is growing. Why is it growing?
Yeah, it's spending.
No, it's spending it. So, but that's also a pent-up demand thing. So when this thing breaks and people start feeling comfortable, in my opinion, that's when you're going to see some really solid
spending. A
Yeah.
lot of people sitting on portions that didn't have to pay rents and stuff, sitting on their stimulus checks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know the things that I can't get here in Chihuahua. and some things that are difficult to find or order or get a good price on Amazon or something like that, I've just had to wait on. I'm not a fan of the Walmart shopping, but I do have to go there maybe every other month. Well, I'm really out of stuff, and every time I drive by it, I just look over the parking lot and go,
no, I really want to risk
you.
it. Yeah, when we went up there, because we like going to Super One. But Loretta's a seamstress, and so, she has to go to Walmart for a lot of her supplies if she can't get them at Acres. Acres has got a really good supply, by the way. But we drove up there, and there were lines waiting of people to get in. And we just turned around and said, no. She goes, I don't need those buttons that bad.
Yeah, I'm not playing that game.
Exactly.
Wow.
But, yeah, that stimulus thing, I think that's it's a little bit of a disappointment from, I think, a government standpoint, because they wanted people to spend that money, and they're not. I think by and large, they're setting it aside.
No, I saw a bunch of stats on it yesterday. In past years, it really spurred car purchases. And I don't understand how those stimulus payments in 2001 and 2008 of $300 and $600 made people gave people the urge to go buy a car because you got an extra $300. It seems idiotic to me.
Yeah, it is, but it's a confidence thing. I mean, it's kind of like when back in, I think it was Bush that had the trade in a junker thing.
Yeah.
Where the government bought your junker, didn't even have to run, that type of thing. It's basically, it's a confidence builder. That's really what it is. And that money at some point is going to flow back into the economy, whether it goes back to rents, because then it flows through the landlord back into the economy. I mean, it'll get there. I mean, and I love I saw a thing the other day when there was some congressmen are talking about the stimulus money and applied how the government gave it to them and blah, blah, blah. Then this person responded and said, now, wait a minute here. Aren't you just returning my tax dollars? So it's not your money. It was mine to begin with. So.
Well, and then there's this huge amount of money. I brought this up before, and you probably have an opinion on it. It's kind of off topic in a way, but because of illegal immigrants using false Social Security numbers, I remember I was talking to one who was renting a mobile home in a community I managed, and he says, I've been paying into your Social Security system for 10 years. Yeah. And he had a wife and a child here in America, but he wasn't a legal citizen. And he says, I've spent over $10,000 trying to become a U.S. citizen legally, and I'm still here. And he said, and the entire 10 years I've been paying into someone's Social Security account. So now either that person has double payments going into their account, or maybe they're deceased and it's just going into the system. But there are millions of dollars going into the Social Security system that are unaccounted into dead people's Social Security numbers from millions of illegal immigrants. But our government never talks about all that extra invisible money that comes into Social Security.
And for years, it was just impossible to track. I mean, but now... I don't know how long this has been going on for sure, but basically now when somebody passes away, when they become deceased, it's a requirement that the funeral home or whoever processes has to notify Social Security. And I didn't know that until Loretta's younger sister had passed away, and I had to take care of things. And so I'm going through my checklist because I'd done this before for other people. And Danica said, no, you don't have to worry about that. We're required to report it to Social Security. And so that was one of the stopgaps they put into play. But there's still, just think of the pure numbers. That fraud can happen on. I mean, it's kind of like when I applied for Social Security, they wouldn't give it to me because they said I didn't exist. And the reason I didn't exist is because the way my name was spelled, and I'd been using for years, was different than what they had on their system. On the Michael, the A and the E had been reversed. And so they were really good about fixing it. At least the number was the same. But I had to go get my original birth certificate, from 1950. I had to, and luckily those things are available. But, if you didn't feel comfortable working the system and get frustrated, I could see where you would say, no, wait a minute here. You're telling me that I spent basically 45 or 50 years paying into a system and I didn't exist?
Come on.
But I understand their point. I mean, they got to make sure it lines up. And, but yeah, I think about, people think the system's going to go broke, and I highly doubt that. I mean, Congress will figure out a way to make sure it works. And I mean, think about that. I mean, not only politically is it something that's not going to fly, but are you going to take money away from the widows and the orphans? I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, so they'll figure out how to make it work. And they have. I mean, in 1984, when they started taxing Social Security, there was a big uproar because prior to that, it was tax-free. And I think back then, the Social Security cap was like at $35,000 or $40,000. So once you hit that income threshold, you didn't have to pay into it. That's all changed. I mean, and so you're going to pay tax on it above a certain level at either 85 or 50% of the amount, and not the tax, but the amount you pay tax on. And frankly, the income levels are up to about 140,000 now, so they pay tax up to 140,000. So those things will help keep the system solvent. You know, they just need to plug the leaks in the dam. You know.
I just thought it was funny that in all my years here in financial news, I had never heard anyone talk about the invisible money that flows into Social Security.
Yeah, there's a lot, actually.
And they probably want to keep it that kind of invisible too, maybe, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, we're in different times. I think we're going to come out of this better off. I mean, I think people are going to be more fiscally responsible because they find out pretty quick what not having cash reserves or overspending does to them. I think we're going to see better products come out of this. I think you're going to see manufacturers diversify more, which will help out the economy. I think you're going to see a fair amount of business flow back into the United States.
I was going to say that. You think about some of these outsourcing will come back home.
Will come back home. The e-commerce side.
Here's a question I've always thought you might have an answer to, but just because of your knowledge, is why haven't we, all these companies that outsource their employees so that they can make their product cheaper and then bring it in the United States, why haven't we slapped tariffs on them? Why hasn't our government said, okay, any U.S. company that is producing products on a foreign soil to come back into the U.S. and they've left the U.S., we're going to charge you an extra tariff to sell your products and deter that?
Well, I think to a degree they do. I mean, they're not all of them, and I can't speak to that probably as deep as I'd like to. But you know, when they outsource something like that, and it comes back into the country, it has to have a percentage of, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but it has to have a certain percentage of the value of the product inside the U.S. without it being tariffed. So maybe I manufacture the components in South Korea, but they're assembled in the United States. And so by being assembled in the United States,
they kind of save their bacon.
They kind of save their bacon, yeah. And I know that a lot of that happens coming out of Mexico and Canada, because that NAFTA agreement, or whatever the new one's called, you know, that's the provision. NAFTA 2 or whatever. But yeah, I mean, what I think you're going to see is the value of the American workforce, which in my mind has been cheapened. Mm-hmm. Is going to come back, because they're the American workforce by and large is very innovative and very productive. And I also think you're going to see a stronger, I won't say labor movement, but appreciation of what people bring to the table as far as employees. You know, I read a really good article just the other day talking about what's going to happen to incomes. And I think what you're going to see is a gradual increase in base income. And hopefully it's not government subsidized. I'm not a big fan of that. But the problem with that is you're going to have a flow through of pricing. So things are going to get more expensive. I mean, the money's got to come from somewhere. And I know people really pick on the restaurants. And I heard something the other day where a restaurant was gifting a $70 something to somebody, and the person come back and said, well, they're a national chain, they ought to be able to give more than 10%. And then but they don't understand that of that $70, you know, their profit on that's probably 35 to 40%. So they got $28 in profit, and then they're paying somebody in Washington at least $13.50 an hour that's coming out of that profit, and then you still have insurance costs and et cetera, et cetera. So the actual true margin's probably in the neighborhood of 6 to 8%. And so they're giving away, I mean, basically it's probably costing the money to give it away, other than some kind of tax write-off. And so I think that's, you know, I laugh when I see these comments about people assume that I, as a business, if I take in $100, I put $100 in my pocket.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. Yeah, I mean...
The places where that happens are next to impossible.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of overhead. Even when I was doing goofy stuff years ago on eBay and selling like my Sounds of Nature CDs, I was making them all myself. Okay, so I have as opposed to, say, like a hardware store that's got to go out and buy that drill at a wholesale price,
right.
I was only buying the stuff I needed to make it. So at that time, CDs were selling for like $14 a pop. This was
right.
back in the 90s. And so I would sell my CDs on eBay for $14 a pop. I only had usually probably in supplies to make that CD, ink, label, paper, envelope, bubble wrap, maybe $3 per CD.
Right.
So out of that CD, and then I had some listing fees, but out of every CD, I pocketed, out of the $14 CD, I pocketed somewhere between $9 and $10 after packaging and shipping. That's a huge markup. That's a huge return on an item. You usually don't see that in a retail place. You're paying over 50% for the wholesale value generally.
Well,
those markups and when they sell that screwdriver or that Drew or that dish pan,
right.
they're only making a few dollars maybe. Or I mean, sometimes if it's on sale, it's just pennies.
Yeah.
And then you've got employees and insurances and all that kind of stuff. So it isn't. And I think if you've always been just part of the workforce and never maybe owned a business or been in a management position in a business, you don't realize it. You just, like you said, you think $100 in the door is $100 in the guy's pocket, and $100 in the door is $2 in the guy's pocket. Well,
and I think coming out of this too is be I guess not sensitive. Be aware of the fact prices are going to go up. I mean, I know I'll use the rusty putter in the golf course as an example. The amount of money that we're having to spend for the sanitization issues and PPEs is way more than people I think would realize. And at some point, that's got to filter through the system. I mean, and it's going to filter through the system in pricing. I mean, there's really only two things that will drive a business's profit, either volume or margin or a combination of the two. In a small community like Chihuahua, the volume thing's not going to happen. I mean, you just don't have the population base to do that. So you've got to be really sensitive to the fact that, pricing here, in my opinion, is very, very, very competitive, given where you live and what you get and what you're supporting inside the community. Studies show that about 62 cents on every dollar spent in a local business in a small community like this goes back into the community through, paying for labor, to taxes, to charitable contributions, to, paying the lights. I mean, in this particular case, because the city, runs the electrical stuff. So, I mean, what goes around comes around. I mean, that's really, But I'll tell you a little anecdote. The other day, FedEx dropped some stuff off at the house, and I was talking to the guy, and I said, "So how are things going?" He says, "Mike, we are busier now than we are at Christmas."
Because everybody's ordering from home.
Because, he says they're ordering from home because the e-commerce thing, they're afraid to go out.
I'm so irritated with Amazon. And I realize they've got more requests, so it's taken longer to ship. But I'm sorry, I paid for Prime. I'm supposed to have my packages in 2 days, and now you can't live up to that. Where is my Prime refund?
Yeah, but see that I laugh at that because I can remember when UPS first started back in the 70s.
And you waited a month to get your package.
I know. I was in Missoula, Montana, and a lot of what I had to get out of was coming out of Elkhart, Indiana, the business that I worked for. And if we got it in a week, we felt, wow. I mean, really. And now if you don't get it in 2 days, you're irritated? Come on, Scott, get a life.
The fact that they shipped anything out of Elkhart, Indiana is amazing. You ever been there?
Yeah, I have, actually. RV capital of the world.
Yeah, it is. That whole little area there. I lived there, Goshen.
Okay.
Napanee, where I actually lived in Napanee, where most of the factories were. And that was one of the coolest days ever. I had an old RV I was fixing up. And a buddy called me and he goes, "Guess what?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Gulfstream." So you've probably heard of that name before in mobile homes or RVs. Gulfstream, before the collapse in 2008, when the car industry totally crumbled, about a year before that crumbled, the RV industry crumbled, but nobody noticed. because it's not the car industry. But the RV crumbled. And what happened is, like in Napanee, we had 12 different RV companies, and then we ended up with two. But each one, those two RV companies bought up all the other RV companies just for name recognition. Mm-hmm. So maybe Golf owns Monaco and Brom or whatever model of but they're all made at one of two factories. And all RVs are made at one of two factories that are left.
Yeah.
So it's just pretty amazing how that all happened. But he called me up and he says, "You'll never believe it. They're having a yard sale at Gulfstream." And I'm like, no way. So I go down there and I had this old beat up RV. And for just a few $100s, I left with a brand new fridge, a leather sofa, all this RV stuff they had just setting out there. It was just ovens, all that kind of stuff, air conditioning units. And I was like, what? How much is the stuff on that truck? And he goes, $100. And I said, how much is the stuff on that truck? And he goes, $100 each. How much is stuff on that truck? And he goes, $100. I said, so anything I want's $100. He goes, yes.
Sold.
Yeah. Well, they were going bankrupt too.
Right. Yeah.
You're trying to get as much cash flow in before you sign the papers, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, and so I'm looking at, the golf course opened on May 5th. The restrictions are slowly lifting, and I say slowly because, the governor will announce phase 2 and then guidance to follow, and guidance follows in a week. So, so you try to rely upon snippets from the news media, and I found out pretty quick you don't want to do that. Because they're guessing just like everybody else,
And Spokane is still stuck in phase 1, which is weird, having our big town next to us behind.
And they get to go to phase 2, and I think that's actually I think it's officially today, but their guidance isn't out yet, and so. But the rules changed. I mean, where Stevens County, the COVID thing, couldn't have it one in 3 weeks, I think it was. Well, in Spokane now, you can't have more than, I think it's 10 per 100,000 people in 14 days. And so, I mean, and I know the rules need to be different for larger communities versus small communities. And if hopefully what that has to do is nothing about the size of the community, it has to do with the ability to take care of the problem. If there is one. So, but yeah, they're going to be fully operational. It looks like by Memorial Day on phase 2.
Wow.
But that sounds like a really good deal for the public, and it is, I think, to a large degree. But for restaurants especially, it's tough because you still have a 50% of capacity issue. You still need to have your tables no greater than 5. So if you're in a facility where they use the big long bar type things where people kind of a communal table, those can't be used. And a lot of those are bolted to the floor, because they didn't want to move them around. The tables, you have to have 6 feet between where people seat. So like at the Rusty Putter at the golf course, we're fortunate enough we have that big room that had a dance floor in there. So we're able to spread those tables out. But we still have a 50% of capacity problem, and we still have,
But places like you and, say, Sporty's are setting much better for that 50% capacity because you got larger rooms.
Larger rooms, yeah. Yeah, but you still have, of course, originally, you couldn't serve somebody unless they gave you your name, rank, and serial number, and that didn't go over very well, so that lasted all of one day.
They changed that.
So now it's voluntary. So a staff person will come to the table now and say, would you like to volunteer to have your name on a COVID tracing sheet in case it's needed? And what I find ironic is 90% of the people are saying yes. But what they didn't want to be told they had to do that. And the other thing is, in our particular case, we're only taking phone numbers. We're not taking emails, addresses, anything like that. So
that to me, that somebody isn't comfortable doing that is kind of ridiculous.
Well, I think it's, I understand their side of it because they don't trust the government to begin with. And then I think beyond that, they don't trust retail establishments because the biggest fear, went through my mind initially, the biggest fear would be, man, if I get Scott's name, email address, telephone number.
He's going to be hitting me up for money all the time.
What a marketing opportunity, and there's a lot of that, unfortunately, that happens.
Oh, I'm sure. And what a great opportunity to compile a database on your customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than when we're in the golf show. We collect emails, but there's a permission checkoff thing, and then even our email software, when we send stuff out, they have the opportunity to opt out. And if they opt out, they unsubscribe, then we can't even go in and reactivate it without sending them an email asking for their permission. So, and that's to protect them from spam. That's the whole. And we use MailChimp, and that's the reason that's in there. And it's a little bit frustrating because sometimes people hit the unsubscribe button, and then I get the call or the email say, "How come I'm not getting this?" Well, I can go in and it'll tell me exactly when you unsubscribed and right down to the exact time. And if there were any comments, because you have the opportunity to put comments, and I'll get back to people and say, well, Scott, you unsubscribed at 4:17 in the afternoon on April 24th. So the only way I can get you back in the system is we'll send you an email, and you need to accept that email. And to me, that's great. It's fantastic. That's how you protect people. I mean, at the chamber, we've been building a database of outside people that are looking at Chihuahua, and it'll be in MailChimp too. And it's the same thing. You want to give people what they want in the sense if they want more information or they want what's going on, but you also want to protect their privacy. So the protect your privacy thing is internally making sure things are, passworded. But also, if they say, hey, I made a mistake, I don't want this, I don't like what I'm getting, you're sending me too much, they can unsubscribe.
There you go.
So,
yeah. I do that all the time. It's like, okay, I want some information from this company, but then they abuse it. Now I just unsubscribe, I'm not going to get any of your news. That was kind of dumb.
Yeah. Well, if you ask, and that's a sad thing, too, in today's world, if you ask for information on a particular product, then
you're marked for death.
You're marked for death because then you get all this related stuff that will attack you. But that's part of what we live in. I mean, you deal with it.
I'm bombarded with probably about, just 30 each day from the record companies that I can't sort through. I mean, it gets to the point where you get so many emails from so many disc sources, you're just like. And then you have friends that want to, and I've tried to educate my friends. I get so much email. If you want to tell me a story, don't send me an email about the story. Call me up and talk to me about it, because the chances are you got a 99% chance that I am not going to read your email. I read emails that come from sponsors.
Yeah. Well, and
those are the ones that get targeted. My buddy sent me an email that says, check out this cool story on Facebook. And I got one that says, the next email says, is from you. And it says, I need to update the ad for the Rusty Putter. Which one's going to get my attention?
Exactly. Yeah. No, and we do the same thing at the golf course. I mean, I get a fair number of emails my life was driven by email in the last 5 or 6 years of my corporate career. And so you get a pretty good system of going through, and I have this system that says delete, save, and read. And delete's the easy one, and luckily with Gmail especially, it tells you whether it's a promotional piece or whatever. Save means that I read it and I don't want to respond right away, and then I respond right away on the reads and once I respond, it's out of my mind, But that's just a fact of life. But I'm kind of like you. I mean, if people want to get a hold of me, probably don't call, because I don't have my ringer turned on unless I'm expecting a call. But you can text me, and very few people have my cell phone number and fewer people actually text. And so if you text me, then I'll get back to you pretty much right away. And same thing with you, by the way. I noticed with you that if I were to call you, it may or may not get a hold of you. But if I text you, I would say within probably 12 to 24 hours, you respond. Yeah. So, and that's really all you want. So anyway, we're really getting off topic.
We are off topic. I don't even know where we left off anymore. Oh, look at the old guys are rambling.
We haven't seen each other for so long.
No, especially in person.
In person, yeah.
All right.
In fact, I wanted to come in, and I was thinking of just putting a Zoom tag across my forehead so you would feel good.
So we still had one Zoom. Val zoomed in from Deer Park and kind of handed the baton back off to Gene for the Tuesday show. So that was fun. I don't know if you got any of that. And then I had both my kiddos on the radio. I had like 4 ladies with me on the radio. You'd have thought I was something if you didn't find out.
Robert Plant look.
Yeah, they ain't gonna tell you. Find out it was all my family.
Oh, okay.
But that is kind of cool, and that's another thing as like a dad that's been in radio his whole life. I ended up with a couple naturals for my kids. I mean, I can hand either one of them a microphone and they'll just take off, especially Lindsay.
Okay.
And she'll just go, I can give her a piece of copy and say, hey, I need this sponsor announcement. We got a new donor, and just hand her the copy. Man, she gets, right in front of there in the digital editor and just whips it right out like nothing. Like she's been doing it her whole life, so I love it. But I was handing microphones to the kids, as babies just because I love audio, and it's like get them to do something stupid that I can record and embarrassing them with 10 years later, like the Barney song.
Hey, well, my other really great news is I'm going to be a grandpa again.
You are? Is that what you just got texted?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, number 4.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't had that little piece of luck yet, kids. They've been holding out on me, but
I'm older than you.
But they, when I come in their house in Spokane, they look at their cats and they go, "Oh, Grandpa's here." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Grandpa to cats." It doesn't seem quite right, does it?
Well, and Loretta and I are both going through grandparent withdrawal right now because we haven't, other than through FaceTime, we haven't been able to
squeeze any cheeks
or do anything like that for, I don't know, 3 months now, almost 4 months, since January.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Big unhappy picture of the president because he's dropping in the polls.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, for the past couple days, they've been really polling on him. And you know what's funny is Biden gets to sit back and do absolutely nothing, and he's gaining in the polls. And he's really doing nothing. Town hall meetings where there's nobody there.
Right.
He had one yesterday, and I can't even remember what it was about. It was something about the COVID crisis or whatever, but it was like propositional in the future, something that they would do to help or whatever. And I was like, oh, you guys, you know what? You're not even in this. Just be quiet. Just be quiet and keep watching your numbers go up.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get off in politics, but, basically, you can self-destruct yourself pretty fast. It's kind of like the other day I got a piece because Jason and I get this golf thing, every day, kind of what's happening in the industry, especially now. And I read this article that was written by, I think, the CEO of the National Golf Association. And he was talking about adhering to the rules and, things like that are out there. And the tagline I remember out of the whole article is he says, in today's world, remember, everybody has a smartphone and you might be on tomorrow's news.
It is that easy, isn't it?
It is that easy. So I'm putting together my monthly thing for the golf course, and I put that right at the top under the, we're not going to be able to meet and blah, blah, blah. Because, I hear about, well, did you know that there was this over on this, or this was that? And it's impossible to monitor that stuff. But I'm going to put that in there and just say, my recommendation going forward is if you think somebody's doing something that's not right, take a picture. We'll take care of that problem.
Well, it is so easy, and that's kind of the way it is in our society now. We are just snapping pictures of them.
Right.
It's hard to get away with anything, and some people frown upon that, but is it really that bad? I guess if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you care that there's too many cameras around?
Well, I think there's still an invasion of privacy thing, but but on the other hand, you're right. I mean, it's kind of like the old Will Rogers quote: "If you never tell a lie, you don't have to have a memory."
if you're not doing something wrong. When I get people freaked out a lot, the conspiracy theories, and, are they listening to me on the phone? And I'm like, well, what are you doing on your phone that you're so scared of?
Yeah.
If they want to listen to me on my phone, they're just going to hear tons of bad jokes and things I wish about. And yeah, maybe there's something they could arrest me for politically that I've said or whatever, but whatever. Yeah. I'm not doing anything illegal. So why do I care if they're spying on me on my phone? Yeah. I really don't. And should I be worried about an invasion of privacy like that? Yeah, but don't we feel powerless with the technology that's out there and who's in control of it? So I got better things to worry about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, how am I going to get a date during COVID? I'm worried about those kind of things.
Well, I really think you're rocking this new hairdo. You were just saying you were in the grocery store the other day, and
the best part of it is people don't recognize me. It's pretty much I walk around, I go in somewhere, and somebody calls me radio guy or something like that. But I've really taken some people by surprise, and I've really gone unnoticed because I'm starting to almost look like a shrub. What I'm thinking now, though, and I'm speaking to you local officers, just because I got long hair now, I don't want to be profiled and pulled over. I ain't been pulled over. I haven't been pulled over in 5 years, so I don't want to start getting pulled over now just because I have long hair.
Okay. And you got this black, sleek-looking sports car.
Yeah. Just ignore the long hair and the T-tops and the big fat tires that accidentally slip once in a while.
Exactly.
Because they're so wide, you can't help it.
Yeah, a little bit of oil or a little bit of water.
A little bit of rainwater, and whoops, I slid sideways.
That's right.
Not saying I've ever drift raced around downtown Chihuahua. I've never done that in the rain.
It's kind of like I heard a quote, or I saw something once about people that were been drinking, and this gal says, "Well, officer, I haven't been drinking. I've just been having wine." Like it's a food group.
I said, I haven't been drinking. I just drive poorly.
So, yeah. Well, okay.
I had one time I was checking out a band. In Spokane. So I went into the bar, and I really didn't have a drink. I'm not big on alcohol. I'm totally opposed to drinking and driving.
Right.
So I got the stamp, though, from going in this nightclub. I'm coming back down Sprague going home, and I get pulled over speeding. And it's, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and he's got me outside the car, and the first thing he says, have you been drinking tonight? And I said, no, sir. And I mean, he snatched up my arm right now, and he said, then what is that? And I said, I was just there checking out a club for the band for the radio station. And he kind of went, and then he gave me the sobriety test. I made it through it, and then he let me go. But he told me to keep my speed down. But yeah, he did not believe. When you got the bar stamp on, that wasn't a good scenario.
That's a telltale sign there. That's a clue.
That's a clue. You might be lying, kiddo.
That's right. Yeah, along with that empty beer can laying in the first seat.
Not a good sign.
Not a good sign.
All right. Hey, should we run into some? Did you have any news you want to cover about the chamber or anything like that?
Well, not a lot. I think I want to thank the community because they're still purchasing chamber bucks.
We love that.
And we love that. Sandy and I talked yesterday a little bit because I'm working on the budget for next year, and we're probably doing at least, I would say, 200 to 300 a week in chamber bucks.
No way.
The people are using them from what we can see as we get them back all over the board, restaurants, hardware stores, Safeway. I mean, so they're definitely going right back into the community.
That's a good thing.
And that's the nice thing about getting those is because when chamber gets those chamber bucks back, then we literally write a check back to that business for the value of those bucks. And that's 100% back into that business. There's no premium, but it also gives a feel of what people are doing. And so it's something Sandy and I have been trying to track for a while now to figure out where they're going and how many have been redeemed and, stuff like that. We've had a fair number of people buy them and give them to people for graduation. In fact, I think there was a picture on Facebook or in the paper the other day of some high school graduate that had gotten some chamber bucks from they're doing this sponsor graduate thing now. I can't remember what they call it. Tamara Bowman is running that program. But whoever sponsored them and give them some chamber bucks, for graduation, because, they don't have their prom, they don't have all those things. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty exciting. The chamber did qualify and get a payroll protection loan. And so that's going to help out somewhat because we're pretty sure our fundraising, rightfully so, is probably not going to be where it needs to be this year. And you're kind of feeling the same pain, I guess. And I guess something I want to talk about when I get done with the chamber with talking about the radio station. So remind me.
Okay.
We're in the process of redoing our officer slate at the moment. So we're because the way the chamber works, the positions rotate every year.
Sure.
So, I already know I'm going to be the president of the chamber this coming year because I was the vice president.
Really, I might have to start saluting you and calling you Mr. President.
Mr. President, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be president of the golf course and the chamber at the same time, and the creative district. So the chamber's popping along. Creative district, I don't know, it's been so long since we've seen each other, but it's a 501c3 now. That's all been taken care of.
Excellent.
Still waiting for the IRS determination letter, and I'm taking on the task of looking for grants, and that's a challenge in itself, believe me. But it's becoming real, I guess, for lack of a better term. I can tell you, real estate wise, the market's really, really good here right now. I ran into a realtor the other day, and I was talking to her, and I said, "So how's it going?" She says, "Mike, it's unreal. It's probably the best it's been in several years." And I said, "So where's this coming from?" I mean, and she said, "We're getting a lot of people that are doing inquiries from out of town." And that kind of follows what I've been reading. People are tired of the big city. They want the slower environment, the more controlled environment, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a good sign. That's a really good sign.
We had several move-ins when this first started. Houses get snapped up and people move in that just wanted away from the coast in Seattle, I think.
Well,
we're ready to go, and this was the opportunity. This was the warning sign they saw coming. Let's just get out of the city.
Well, and what I'm saying is at the golf course, lots are selling. And so I think that's a healthy sign because these are people are making a transition move over a period of years because right now it's going to probably take 2 years to get a house built.
They're probably more affluent to make the transition too because this hasn't affected their pocketbooks. They already had the savings or a long-time career.
Exactly. I think a lot of them are like me. When I decided to say I was done, we're in a position that you could make that transition. You didn't have to wait to the very end of your career. Or they're coming out of a relatively high cost of living area, and so they move to a lower cost of living area and they net back so they can afford to retire. I mean, it's to me it's really, really healthy, and so I think overall, as far as the chamber is concerned, we're starting to focus ahead, trying to figure out. At this point, on the Economic Development Committee side, how can we do the most with least? In other words, I know our budget's going to be down because I developed the budget for the EDC. It's probably off 50%. So how are we going to use those funds and the projection? How are we going to get it back? And beyond the chamber bucks, I think it's going to be really driven to figure out how to support local businesses. So, but speaking of the radio station. We were talking earlier about, if you give a business $100, that $100 doesn't go in their pocket. Yeah, I can tell you right now that because of the CARES Act, they changed the charitable deduction thing. And so if I were to give you $1,000, I can take that $1,000 off my top line on my income.
No, dollar for dollar, because usually it's like 50% or 50% or a formula. So if you donate me $100, you can write off $50 of that. Usually,
that's what it used to be.
Yeah, now it's dollar for dollar.
Now it's for dollar.
Is just for this year?
Well, it's in the CARES Act, and I haven't read the CARES Act, but that just popped up in one of my news feeds the other day because charitable contributions are off so much that they built that into that CARES Act with all these other things, and it just hasn't gotten a lot of press. And then
so you could really pay down your your income tax owed. I mean, would you sooner give the IRS that $1,000 or have a charitable write-off and give that $1,000 to the radio station or PACA or cancer treatment or whatever it happens to be?
It's not quite that lucrative, but because it's not a credit against your tax owed, but it drops your top line. In other words, if I make $10,000 a year and I give you $1,000, then I only made $9,000. So I'm going to pay tax on 9, not the 10. But that's a change. I mean, that's a big change. And if you don't itemize, they're going to allow you $300 per person to do the same thing. So like me and Loretta, if we didn't itemize, we could take a $600 charitable deduction right off the top. And so, I mean, that to me is great news for 501c3s. It has to be a 501c3. And they list in there, basically there's lots of 501c3s. The golf course is a 501c3, but it's not considered a educational type institution. And so we don't, you couldn't give the golf course money and get a tax deduction. You can KCHW.
Yes.
And I'm going to caveat this. Please check with your tax advisor because I'm not a tax professional by any means. But I read that article twice, and I'm thinking, wow, I mean, this is a great news for the Creative District, for any of the Arts Guild things, the PACA, the radio station, not the chamber because it's a 501c6. But, so those people out there that, you want to feel a little bit more charitably inclined, you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck. The CARES Act is supporting your charitable condition or production or contributions this year effectively.
Wow, that's really nice. And we're hurting too.
And and we were talking about that last week or the week ago, because my job, I see it, is to help promote what you do because I believe in the community and what you do for the community. So the issue becomes anytime there's an opportunity that you can promote KCHW, it's unreal. And I can tell you how powerful this is. The other day I was visiting with our banker and we were just talking about stuff, and things like that. And he's out of Spokane. And I says, I can't do it Wednesday morning because I've got this gig I'm doing with the radio station. He goes, really? Chewella's got a radio station? And I goes, yeah. And I says, depending on which way the wind's blowing, it reaches about 25,000 people on a daily basis. And it's a nonprofit radio station that does
Actually, it's way more than that.
Oh, is it?
Our coverage area is 44,000 homes.
Homes, okay.
Homes.
Well,
that's 44,000 homes.
I'll have to update my spiel.
There you go.
But and Phil goes, really? And he goes, that's cool. And I said, well, maybe you ought to move to Chewela. You can commute to Spokane. Right. So,
and there's a good chance you could volunteer at the public radio station.
That type of thing. Yeah. But so it is, and like he said, that's really unique for a small community. And it is. I mean, I don't know, you're the radio guy, but if you were to look at the state of Washington, how many communities of 2,500 people have a radio station?
Very few.
Very few.
Very few. Or it's a little 100 water the way we started out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the University of Montana.
Yeah, it's one that just covers the town, that kind of stuff the way we started out. But we had to lower our class of license because we didn't have the funds to start off like a big boy or something.
Right.
But we've baby stepped it to where now we're putting out as much power as allowed by law for our geographic location, and that's because we're close to Canada. But we are effectively covering like a 50-mile radius pretty much in a bubble.
Really?
The mountains, some of those mountains really causes problems in the iron, and then sometimes it lets it flow weirdly. Like, I mean, to me, and I didn't realize it probably the first year we were at full power until I got a phone call and somebody said, wow, I was in Post Falls today and you guys were crystal clear. And I'm like, what? And then come to find out you can hear us in Post Falls, you can hear us in Coeur d'Alene, you can hear us in Hayden, right, and we come in crystal clear. But yet you can be in downtown Deer Park and hear it in the background, So I've got spots we need boosters.
Yeah.
But
so I guess the moral to my story is send KCHW money.
All right. I like that. Okay. And I like it better when somebody else promotes it, too, because I get tired of it.
Well, And I think you can do it in multiple ways. You can obviously send a check. I think you can do it online.
You can do it online.
Yeah, because and so if you appreciate what you're hearing, send Scott some money.
Here's what I haven't got they're almost ready to go. In fact, they're probably going out today. All of the spring renewal requests, and I hadn't got them out yet. And here's how good some of our fans are. And they had circled yes, so I could say their name. So the Ups. Mm-hmm. All right. So I haven't sent them out yet. They went ahead and just sent theirs in because they know they get it in the spring. And they hadn't received it yet. So they went online, printed out their own form, and sent it in because they hadn't gotten one from Scott yet.
Give them a hand. Yeah, exactly.
And then I love it through this, too. We've got a new member in the Radio Guild, and that's Your Custom Shirts, which is part of Valley Graphics.
Oh, really?
Valley, Washington.
Oh, okay.
And I love it, the fact that, because I know they're thinking in the back of their heads, we're going into this. The radio station's probably having a hard time. I have a couple. They don't want me to say their names. They're up in the Canadian border. They just sent a random $200 in because we went down to low power for a couple days, and then they can't hear us up there on the Canadian border. And they said, I remember last year when your guys' transmitter blew up. Obviously, it wasn't that bad because you were back on the air a couple days, but we figure you can use this anyway. And there's a check for $200. Yeah. Wonderful things have happened like that. I remember early on we went off the air and Sherry Hansen just walked in and said, it's obvious you guys are off the air, and I figure you're having problems. You might need some help. And she gave me a check for $600.
Right.
Those are the kind of people that are in this community. So thank you to the Ups. Really through the this whole COVID shutdown thing, and businesses shutting down. Every one of our sponsors. Mm-hmm. Stayed on the air with us. We were lucky they were essential businesses and stuff.
Right.
But sure, their pocketbooks are hurting too. But every through these past 2 months, nobody that was like a continual advertiser stopped. And in fact, the ones that got open and were open and maybe had more of a need to, like restaurants, to get the word out there. Sporties came on board, and Jesse's been supporting us for the past couple months when we really, really needed it. New health programs. They wanted to get the word out about the COVID testing and stuff at the clinic, and they came on board. And those kind of little things have really, there was a couple times I was like, am I going to be able to pay the electric bill? I actually went into the radio station's electric account and turned off auto pay because I didn't have the money to pay the electric bill.
Right.
And it was I got it paid a couple weeks behind, but I couldn't have that auto withdrawal hitting the bank account, and then you got a bounced fee on top of a non-paid electric bill. So it was a little tight, but community people have stepped up and kept us on the air and the lights on.
Well, I think it's important to point out the radio station doesn't qualify for a lot of these CARES programs, or any of them actually, because it's volunteer ran.
And I have no employees.
To the number of employees.
Uh-huh.
And so, because I've been looking, through the grants thing, looking for radio type stuff too, and the very few that I've found, and there are very few so far anyway, all are designed to protect keeping people employed.
I applied for the SBA one. I mean, like day one, and I'm sure there were no employees. It didn't say that wouldn't qualify you, but I really wanted that one because it would have saved our bacon. That with that $10,000 they were giving out, I was just like, okay, that will pay our utilities and our rent until the end of the year. That means anything else we do generate goes right back into the station. If we did, if we come out of this okay and things pick up, we drastically need real radio equipment around here. I'm thinking maybe, if we had that $10,000 grant, now we know rent and everything's covered. Anything else that comes in can be for improvements, like a new power pack for our transmitter, about $3,000, and you should have one on hand, and I don't.
Right.
That's why when we got struck by lightning, it caused a different problem, but you should have those backup systems. It's like they tell you in the Marines: two is one and one is none.
Right.
If you got two of something, you got one extra.
Yeah.
If you don't have any extras, you're just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you're like CenturyLink. You're down for a couple days because you didn't buy a spare.
Yeah. You know what the term for that is?
What?
Running naked.
I do that all the time, then.
So let's I want you to visualize this. Let's stop Scott, because we don't want him running naked.
Nobody needs to see that.
Okay.
All right. Although if I keep growing my hair, nobody will see anything.
Nobody say anything anyway. Yeah. Hey, Sasquatch is in town.
Do you guys have your own cousin It? No, that's the guy that talks all the time at the station. All right. Thank you for pointing that out for radio.
You bet.
I did not know it was a dollar for dollar.
It is.
A charitable deduction thing now, so that's really good.
Yeah, off the top line, not the bottom line. Off the top line.
One of the things they teach at grant writing school and marketing for nonprofits at WSU is to ask people to put you in their will.
Oh yeah.
As an endowment, and that is a tough one.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine going to an elderly person and saying, "Hey, you don't have much time left. Could you, maybe think about leaving some of your wealth to public radio?" I'd have a hard time looking someone in the face and saying that, but I can say it over the radio.
Well, I can tell you, I did that a lot. When I was working for financial plans, and the best way to ask that is. If I was dealing with you, I'd say, Scott, how would you like to be remembered? What is your legacy? What are those things you're passionate about? And we can make sure the attorney puts those in your will and they get funded.
Nice.
And you'd be surprised. I mean, what people did. I mean, because nobody likes to talk about death to begin with, but once you get beyond that, people really do want to have a legacy. And a lot of times their legacy is their family, rightfully so. But beyond that, and I had a guy tell me once, you know what the power in my psychic is to be able to reach beyond the grave and still give back?
What?
Well, that was his question.
Oh.
He says that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be remembered I can never say the word, perpetuity. Okay. And in his particular case, and him and his wife, they funded a pet cemetery. Literally. I mean, and it's still going today. And this was, 20 years ago. But they fully funded the ability to have a pet cemetery.
I kind of threw that out there. So if you made a large enough donation, we'd name the new theater after you. Yeah,
okay.
It didn't work out.
Didn't work out that well? Okay. Yeah. So use the word legacy.
There you go.
So if you'd like to be known, in your legacy that you helped to support community radio in Chewelah, Washington, we can make that happen. And it'd be just like you do for God-Fearing Brothers. The morning show is provided by a generous donation, blah, blah, blah. So that's how that would go.
We had a great community member here, a lovely woman, and I only got to be friends with her toward the end of her life till I met her. She was absolutely fabulous, and she loved the radio station, and that's how we met. She knew we had a mutual friend and came out of her way to meet me and tell me how much she enjoyed it, and she knew she was dying, and that is one thing she did for the radio station, and she passed away right after our big firestorm. What has it been now? 3-4 years since we had that big firestorm. But that she bought us and paid. She bought us a tri-fuel generator that will run on any kind of fuel, and paid for having the electrical work and the plumbing so that we could just wheel it out to the side of the building and plug in and power up during an emergency. And that's a legacy she left for the people of Chewelah. And I wish she wouldn't have asked me not to say her name. Really, because I got to honor that for her, I guess, even after her death. But if I said it, a lot of people would know her. And
you need to respect that. And so
she's just a beautiful woman, and that's the only thing that propels me to want to say who it was, is because she was so beautiful. But we will respect that. But what a great thing that she did, and that wasn't like a gift for the radio station. She kind of did that
for the community.
Because she knew if we ever had another firestorm and we lost power, like when Colville lost power, the station was off because they didn't have a generator.
Right.
And if Chewelah would have lost power, we would have been off too, because we didn't have that kind of infrastructure yet, because we were new. And it's great to know that you've got that little safety feature. Now, my second goal, and this is an auto-on instant generator at the tower on top of the mountain. There's some technology we could do as a community that would really protect us in an event of a disaster, and one of those would be an instant-on generator. So if we did lose power, which has happened up there before, that we could provide our own. And the second thing in it is there is equipment out there where I can, because I'm only really, as a crow flies, about 3.5 miles from the tower. And there's equipment out there where I could create my own, basically, broadband network where I would never have to worry about having internet. Everybody in town, every internet connection could be down in town, no matter which one you're using. And I could still create my own network and communicate with the tower because I'd be autonomous from all that. And the problem with me being able to do it, which is my dream, is it costs, an extra $1,800 tower climb plus the equipment.
Right.
But if I had an extra like $3,000, I could create this bubble between the radio station and our tower on the mountain and I had a generator where electrical outages and all that stuff never even bothered the radio station. We'd be totally unhurt by internet fluctuations or power fluctuations, but that is probably about a $15,000 project till you pull an auto-on generator and all that stuff together up there.
Right.
But it's on my list of, if we ever get a really cool grant. Facebook was doing the $100,000 journalism grant, and I applied for that.
Right.
And they came back and said, "Keep up the good work, Scott." But no.
I got one of those too. And I got it's an email nowadays, of course, but I get an email from an organization that says, "Thanks, but you don't qualify."
Yeah.
But I figured, okay.
What's it hurt to try?
What's it hurt to try? Yeah.
If Facebook would have dropped $100,000 on Northern Lights Public Radio, we'd have all the equipment on the hill we could ever need.
Exactly.
I can do a lot with that. Where I'm just kind of crafty at that way of putting stuff together. I mean, I've amazed people when they walk in the studio. There isn't expensive equipment in here.
Right.
These nice big monitors donated by the Arnold family.
Right. Yeah, I know you were saying that Brandon was yelling.
Yeah,
he's still working on a 12-inch screen.
But somehow the family gave me the big one. Sorry, Brandon.
That's right. Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah. I got $20 webcams. I have automation software that I found and tweaked for free. I built most of the computers in here.
Right.
Everything's loaned or borrowed. There's not a lot of expense. The two biggest things are the transmitter, obviously, that was $15,000.
Right.
And then the emergency alert system, which you have to have by the government, that was $2,500. Those are the only two new pieces of equipment that we have. Everything else used, old, tied together with baling twine, but it works.
It's repurposed.
It's repurposed. and the nice thing about it is it all works. So.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Man, we've been blown through time. I think I even forgot the legal ID. You are listening to KCHW Chewelah. It's Northern Lights Public Radio.
It's been an hour.
I know. Broadcasting on 102.7. Thank you for listening this morning. It's Scott and Mike, and we've covered just about everything. We were worried about not having enough content for this morning, but we've actually never hit any of the content we had because we've just been blabbing.
That's right.
All right. So do you have a birthday calendar? We could throw out some local birthdays.
Yeah, I do, actually. There's a couple.
All right. We had some good ones yesterday. It'll be hard to beat.
Oh. All right. Well, we have, let's see, today's the 20th, right?
Yep.
We have Maylee Stout.
Okay.
Jaden Ludwig. And Tammy Culverwell.
All right. All sorts of big family names. There you go. Happy birthdays. You know them. You love them. Find them on Facebook. Send them a message. Pretty soon, though, things keep going back to the new normal-ish. We'll be able to go back to that thing and say, when you see him on the street, point and laugh.
Yeah. No, you can't.
No, you can't. All right. Did you have any other news citywide other than that?
Not really.
Right.
I mean, not that I can think of. I mean, like I say, I've been pretty incognito, as far as that goes.
I got a little tease. When the sport starts back up, Mr. Brandon Hansen's getting ready for a new sports show.
Yes.
He's asking me me all sorts of questions, and the whole Zoom thing gave him ideas that he could be interviewing anybody, any coach in the county, any athlete, anything like that. So he's gearing up. I think he's going to deliver us a big sports show.
Oh, really? Good for him.
Yeah. We love it. All right. Let's see. I think that's all. We covered radio. We covered the chamber. We covered the rusty putter. You guys are open for seating.
We're open. Yeah, we're open for seating 7 days a week. Open every morning at 8 a.m. Monday through Thursday, we kind of follow the pro shop. When they're closed, we close. So it's 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 to 7. Sean's, we decided to continue doing the weekend specials. This last weekend was one of my favorite he's had. He had Eggs Benedict for a breakfast special. And then he does this thing called Dueling Shrimp, which is really, really, really good. And then, of course, lasagna. Anytime he has lasagna, we've got a standing order from friends to tell them so they can come by and get it.
That sounds
it's really,
good.
really good. But yeah, no, Rusty Putter's open 7 days a week.
Now you made me hungry.
Golf course is open. We're tee times right now are starting at 7 in the morning. We're still playing with the rules a little bit because seems like they change every other day, but it's getting closer to golf as normal.
All right.
But that'll be a while. I mean, the thing that jumps out when you show up there is the golf carts are being fully disinfected every day when they come in off the course. So as you walk up to the front, you get this whiff of bleach.
And you know what, though? When you smell it, it makes you feel safe.
That's exactly it. I mean, we've created 2 new jobs because of COVID. So we were able to put a couple people to work.
I know some Quickie Mart employee is getting hazard pay out of the deal.
Oh, really?
At one of our local gas stations.
Oh, really?
So the employees get hazard pay for. Yeah. And I suppose for some, like me, being somebody that can be easily compromised. If I was working at a gas station and this came through, I would have quit.
Yeah.
Would have had to.
Yeah, you would have to.
I wouldn't have. So to those people that keep working and serving us and taking care of, hats off,
right.
Because and I'm glad to see that they're getting something extra for staying on.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I my hats off to the, especially those people that are kind of on the front lines type thing. But yeah, other than that, we provide all the PPEs for everybody. All the staff or have that available.
Don't have to run out and buy it themselves or anything like that, right?
No. And actually they're required to wear it inside the restaurant. And then Jason made the decision that the pro shop, they're required to wear it whenever anybody's in there other than themselves, I think, our biggest concern right now is fires. I think we can get through this and we can get things working the way they need to be working. Big group events are a thing. It's kind of like Chautauqua. They're a thing of the past, probably for the year. But, but if it gets, we get into August and we have the good old smoke flowing in, that really stifles outdoor activities. That's probably our biggest concern. But we can't control that. So, it's the old adage, control what you can control and don't worry about the rest.
Maybe this rain is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
I was really, really worried up north because the creeks were so low.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the Columbia. They drop that river all the time. But the creeks around there are usually raging this time of the year, and they haven't been. They are now.
They are now. Yeah.
They are now. So.
Yeah, and so, it's kind of like, we watch the weather forecast because we try to predict, what the flow of traffic is going to be at the golf course. And it's actually perfect in my mind. You get a couple of days of rain, then you get a couple of days where it's nice, and a couple of days of rain. And the other thing that does is
it breaks down the pollen.
Breaks down the pollen, yeah. And it also saves us from having to use our irrigation system as much. And we own our own water, but what we own is capped, and so you don't want to use it early because we get to the end. Fortunately, a couple of years ago, we started putting water in a water bank so we can pull from that. But, those are really, really designed for drought type years. And so we start watching that early and often. And then of course, people don't understand it if they go out to play golf and it's brown. You know,
Doesn't seem quite as fun.
yeah, it just doesn't. Well, the ball rolls, it rolls further.
I didn't know you could bank on non-water usage.
You can. Washington State's got a water bank. Stephen County is trying to emulate it, actually, where if, like, we're allotted X millions of gallons of water that we own. Okay, the golf course people that developed it were smart enough years ago to buy the water rights up there. Nice. And so when you see it watering up there, we're not using Chihuahua water. We're using our own water, and of course it's non-potable, so you can't drink it and things like that. But a couple of years ago, Washington State put together a water bank, and so effectively what happens is we monitor our usage, and then when you get to the end of the season, we take a look at how much we've used relative to what we own, and if we have excess, then we can bank that into the future.
Nice. So if you have a drier year, you're not. So if a drier year,
we can pull for that. And we started that program a couple of years ago, and when it became available, frankly, or at least we became aware of it. We tried to go to the Stevens County one, but Stevens County doesn't have theirs put together yet. It'd be nice to not have to deal with the state, frankly, because the bureaucracy's a little tougher. You have to have outside consultants. I mean, there's things like that. But where Stevens County, it would be kind of like home. And if Stephen County, gets our water bank together, we'll consider that. But yeah, it really can at some point save our bacon. And then if we get a lot of excess water in there, then we can actually sell that if we need to. I think, is Grumpy John out there?
It is Grumpy John.
It is Grumpy John. So now you know more than you did 5 minutes ago, right?
There you go. Wow. That happens about every 5 minutes. Yeah. All right. Let's do a little trivia, and we'll get out of here for the day. Can you believe we never even went to break? We've talked for...
I was going to say, we didn't talk about today's birthdays.
Well, we didn't do very well. That's all we got in was birthdays. We were kind of wild or crazy or rambly.
Okay.
Yeah, rambling.
All right. Bring it on.
Bring it on. We'll end with a little fun. Don't forget today's show made possible by support from a couple people for the morning show, and that's New Health and our friends at God-Fearing Brothers Auto Sales and Auto Repair. Thank them for supporting public radio in the morning. And in the studio there, Grumpy John. What's Grumpy John up to? You get my text?
I'm watering plants.
You're watering plants?
Yep. The plants came in last week, so I've got 27 of them that have to be watered just about every day, although Mother Nature's taking care of it for a little while, a little bit here.
Yeah. You'll have to chastise me.
I just go around 6 days a week, and
I forgot about the plants.
And they're looking beautiful. They came to a different color this year. That gold in them is gorgeous.
So do you got like a 4-wheeler you get to drive around town in to water these plants?
No, they're in the back of my pickup. I've got 42 gallons of water in the back of my pickup.
Wow.
I'm all ready for winter, so when it snows, I've got plenty of weight in the back there.
He's working on his biceps. Every time he picks up a gallon, that's 8 pounds.
Well, and so it actually is helping me because when we couldn't do anything around here, I did volunteer to go up and help Rural Resources deliver food to people. Okay. And each one of those boxes weighs 50 pounds. And Whoa. I did my shoulders in royally.
Okay.
But it actually helps an awful lot right now to be able to just lift the gallons. It's giving it enough exercise to where it eases it up.
You're looking good.
Yeah.
I'm ready to come back on the air Sunday.
Okay, so did you get the text?
Yes, I got the text, and that's what I came to make sure I can be here on Sundays.
Yes.
I've had a couple people, when are you going to get back on the radio? So I said, well, as soon as this virus decides it wants to leave. Thank God it really didn't plant very much in Stevens County. We were lucky.
Right. Very lucky, especially living on this 395 corridor. It kind of scared me. We have friends that are at Quickie Marts, and it really scared me for them. I figured they were probably, if there was any easy source of getting it into the radio station, I figured some of the most people in the most dangerous jobs out there are people working at Quickie Marts and coffee shops and any place retail. They've been at the highest risk.
Exactly.
I was so grateful that I wasn't over on the other side of the state. My brother still lives over there, and he said about 5 of our friends over there lost their lives to this thing. That hit the Puget Sound area horrible, and it's still hitting them. I see it. I get the Seattle Times on the computer every day, and I usually get about 10, 15 messages from them every last night. I think another 180 new cases of it over in the Puget Sound area in the state of Washington. That's terrible.
Still not slowing down in some places.
It's slowing down to a certain extent, but this was the first time it had gone back over 100 in a long time.
Well, and I'm probably guilty at it in ways too. Is I don't think everybody sheltered like they were supposed to. I mean, you could look around and see the amount of traffic. We didn't like it. We didn't want to do it. We used every excuse possible to get out of the house and go to the store. I bet you there's people that go to the store 3 times a day just because they don't want to sit home.
I'm out in the country, and I've sat out there. I'm bored sick. There isn't anything on TV to watch of any value for the most part during the weekdays. But I did go out every day. Now, I didn't go into the stores, but I did take a drive. And I figured as long as I take a drive, my windows are rolled up mostly, and I'm not really spreading it anywhere. But I would go out somewhere, drive around Waits Lake, go up to the ski hill, just to go out. I wanted to see scenery. I just wanted to get out of the house. Yeah. Those 4 walls were looking ugly.
That's different than going to Walmart because I'm bored. Yeah. I mean, that type of thing. And so, yeah. But anyway, before I forget it, the flowers. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a chamber-sponsored thing.
Yes.
And so I want to give thanks to the chamber and all the people that donate money to help offset the price of those flowers. Because I think there's 75 of them total.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
and
this year
the city handles the ones that are up on the posts. They take care of those, and then we take care of the rest.
Right.
And I think I don't remember, but they're beautiful this year, and that little bit of water that we've been giving them, they're blooming already. They're growing. So
well, and thanks for Grumpy for taking care of all those flowers.
I enjoy doing that. It gives me something to do when you're old and nobody wants to have you work anymore.
Take what you get.
Your mind seems to be going. It doesn't take much of a mind to do that.
Well, let's see whose mind's going the worst. And how about you go head to head as we go out the door here? Trivia with Mr. Mike Bentz and Grumpy John.
I'll give him a run for the money.
Okay, probably.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
And today that's Mr. Mike Bentz and Mr. John Grumbach, as we call him, Grumpy John.
I'll ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
I don't expect immediately. They're both kind of old. So we'll have no time on the clock for these questions. Right.
If we combine our ages, we'd be back in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
and I don't have any buzzers, so if you have the answer to the question, just blurt it out or fight it out.
Okay.
First one, roughly 4 in 10 men have no desire to know whether or not their partner has done this.
Cheated.
What'd you say?
He said cheated.
Cheated? Oh, okay.
I don't want to know.
No, I don't want to know.
I'm sorry, I want to know.
Oh, I'm going to say 4 in 10 don't have any desire to know that they've done this.
To know whether or not their partner has done this.
Dated.
Nope. It was had plastic surgery, Botox, hair extensions, or any type of body modification procedure.
Okay.
I'm surprised that number isn't even higher.
Well, isn't that cheating?
I like Grumpy's answer.
Okay.
All right. The White House first got one of these in 1947. I had no idea there was one of these recreational places inside the White House.
Bowling alley?
Bowling alley. You were going to say
I'm ready to say pinball machine.
But bowling alley there's a bowling alley in the White House.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. A recent survey by Allure magazine found that 42% of men have no desire to know whether their romantic partner has received what? Well, that's the same as the first one. Skip that question.
Okay.
Scratch that.
I could get that one right this time.
Forget that. It's written in a different way, but it's like the same answer.
Okay.
All right. Wow. Who wrote this? Okay. What was significant about 1979's Hurricane Bob?
It's the only hurricane where it's spelt the same frontwards and backwards.
Well, that is true, but there's something else about it.
I didn't even realize there ever was
Hurricane Bob. It was the first male named hurricane.
He got it. Mr. Bentz got it. First male named
because they've always been
They
females.
were always female before.
All right.
stereotyping.
So I'm going to give breakfast bingo and just see if you guys can give through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a statement. The answer to that statement is going to be spelling bingo, each word. Okay, 5 statements. The answer to it spells bingo. First up, the meal you eat in the morning.
Breakfast.
Someone who comes up with new ideas, gadgets is called a what?
Ideaist.
Innovator.
It comes after the 8th of the month.
9th.
Check.
Grumpy scores on that one.
Okay.
Something that is disgusting.
Grumpy John.
It does begin with a G, but no, we're looking for something that's with a G.
Garbage.
Gross.
Oh, okay.
Something that is disgusting is gross. When betting on a game, you have to consider this.
Odds.
All right, there you guys almost spelt bingo. What was his answer? Inventor? No, he had idea guy.
Idea guy, yeah.
I said ideaist.
Ideaist. I've never heard that. Is that a word? Ideaist. Can I use
Ideas?
that? Well, I'm a massive ideaist. With a small brain. That's me.
That's
All
right.
right.
Big body, little head.
See if you guys can guess this one. Guess the word that's missing from this real news headline. Woman wins lawsuit over faulty blank.
Faulty.
Nose job.
No. Over faulty teeth.
You guys wanted to say something else. I
I
can tell.
know.
Yeah.
I tried to think, how do I keep this family friendly?
All right. You both would have been wrong if you would have went there anyways.
Oh, okay.
All right. South African woman won damages of $13,000 after a toilet collapsed beneath her at a hospital. I wonder how heavy she was. A woman was visiting her husband in the hospital when she needed to use the toilet. She told the court she still suffered pain as a result of injuries sustained in the incident. In her testimony, the woman said that seconds after she sat down, the toilet bowl shattered beneath her. She landed on broken pieces of toilet bowl, and her right knee was twisted and trapped under rubble. And now somebody always has the rubber butt. Wow.
Okay.
That sounds scary. $13,000, though. I would ask for more.
Yeah.
Can I say this? That's a crappy thing to happen.
I was thinking it, and I didn't say it.
And do you know the inventor of the toilet? What his name was?
Crapper.
Flush.
Thomas Crapper.
Thomas Crapper.
Crapper?
There you go,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the fun we got for you today. Sorry. Don't forget, Grumpy John back Sunday at 11.
11
3
o'clock.
hours of classical music.
Yes,
if
sir.
I remember to leave the door open for him.
I'm ready. It's been, I've missed doing that. I enjoy doing that show. It's fun.
And we're glad to have you back. And Mr. Mike Bence, are you thrilled to be back in person on a Wednesday, or do you want to go back to Zoom?
Well, I get more breaks on Zoom.
You do get more breaks on Zoom. I think it's because we hadn't been in person so long. We usually break after an hour and then come back and do 2 segments, but we did a solid 2 hours without a break. All right.
I was going to say, I bet I've had the radio on all morning long here, and you guys have been going. It's been interesting.
Loudmouth. All right. We hope you guys all have a great day. I'm Scott.
I'm Mike.
I'm Grumpy John.
And this is KCHW 102.7. Thanks for being here.
It's 8:57.
Your KCHW morning show made possible by a donation from God-Fearing Brothers Auto Center. God-Fearing Brothers specializes in auto services